بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد طه الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه الطيبين الطاهرين ومن اتبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت يا حي يا قيوم تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجعل نياتنا خالصة لوجهك الكريم لله تعالى. I start by praising Allah, the Exalted. I ask Him to raise the rank of our Master Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, likewise his kind Al and his noble companions. May Allah Ta'ala protect the Ummah of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam from whatever he feared for them, and may Allah Ta'ala grant us all the sincerest of intentions and the reward in the hereafter for all our good deeds. Thereafter, insha'Allah, we were going to continue from where we left off in the previous session. We're on Hadith number 10 of this honorable collection that we are going through, namely a collection that is a summary of the Sahih of Al-Imam Al-Bukhariyy, that was summarized and compiled in this particular collection by Ibn Abi Jamrah rahimahullahu ta'ala, who selected just under 300 hadiths in this particular book of his, while omitting the chains of narrators from the hadith to make it easier for the Muslims and the students to both study and memorize these hadiths. So, since we are on hadith number 10, hopefully those of you who had made an intention to memorize 1 per 10 have chosen, if not already started, to memorize at least one of the hadiths thus far. As for us, insha'Allah, we're going to continue now. And the author mentioned, قال البخاري قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم أنه قال من سلك طريقا يطلب به علما سهل الله له طريقا إلى الجنة. So in this hadith, it says, Al-Bukhariyy said. So if you notice, this does not include the narrator of the hadith. And if you recall, we mentioned that sometimes Al-Imam Al-Bukhariyy would do that. He would mention certain hadiths without actually mentioning explicitly who it was that narrated this hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we gave a title to those hadiths, that is, those types of hadiths in which Al-Imam Al-Bukhariyy does not include the narrator in it. He just says, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. Of course, there is a chain, and he has a chain, but he does not mention it in this particular hadith. And that's known as the ta'liqat of Al-Bukhariyy, and sometimes known as the mu'allaq of Al-Bukhariyy. May Allah Ta'ala raise his rank. He said then, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, the one who travels a path seeking knowledge, and what's meant of course is religious knowledge, Allah will make easy for him a path to paradise. So whoever takes a path and wants by being on this path the knowledge of the religion, that's what he seeks, that's what he wants from it, and he seeks it from the people of truth, i.e. those who are qualified to teach it, and he does that for the sake of Allah, He's doing it sincerely. He's not doing it to get praise from the people. He's not doing it so that people can call him a scholar or knowledgeable. He's not doing it for the title. He's doing it for the sake of Allah. Then the reward of such a person is with Allah. And so through this path that one takes to seek the knowledge of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah from the trustworthy people, then because of this path that he takes, because of this travel on this path, Allah eases for him a path to paradise. These are the words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is the one who said this. Imagine then that the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam heard these specific words directly from the mouth of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that if you take a path of knowledge, if you spend your time seeking the religious knowledge, this is your path, this is your route, then as a result of that, Allah would facilitate for you a path to paradise. And they heard this. The companions heard this. They shared it with the other companions. The tabi'een heard this from the companions. This became known then, that if one wants a path to paradise and for that path to be made easy for him, then be among those that seek the knowledge and are willing to travel to acquire it. And so when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, many of the companions did not remain in Al-Madinah. It's not that they went sightseeing or let's go see the world now, there's nothing left for us to do in Al-Madinah. No, they traveled and left Al-Madinah for different reasons. Remember, there was a caliphate, there was someone in charge, but there was also a mission to spread the knowledge of Islam. Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu kept up with that mission. Umar radiyallahu anhu maintained it. Uthman radiyallahu anhu expanded it. Ali radiyallahu anhu remained steadfast upon this particular route of spreading the knowledge of Islam. And so they used to send companions to different regions, delegates, teachers, and the like. And some companions would go to different areas and stay there for different reasons. So what would happen now if a particular companion or tabi'i, meaning follower of a companion, wanted to acquire knowledge? Remember, not every companion heard every single hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sometimes one companion would hear it from another. Didn't the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, "Ballighu anni walau ayah," that convey even if it is one verse from me? And he also said, لِيُبَلِّغِ الشَّاهِدُ مِنْكُمُ الْغَائِبَ. Let those of you who are present inform and convey to those who are absent. So the companions would do that. If another companion had missed a session of knowledge with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they would pass that knowledge on. They would share it to these other companions. And sometimes those companions would ask, what did you hear from the Prophet alaihi salatu wasalam? And so now, if they wanted to acquire this knowledge, if they wanted to hear a hadith that they did not hear from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but they've heard this other companion did hear it, or a tabi'i says, I want to hear it, this hadith that I've heard, from the one who heard it from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And these companions now might be in different regions, different localities, different countries as well. So if this individual wanted to seek that knowledge and acquire it, what do they need to do? Travel. How are they going to travel in the past now that this companion, for example, has moved to Egypt or moved to Iraq? We hear some companions moved to Kufa, for example. Some went to Egypt, some went to Jordan. They moved to different localities. So this companion or this tabi'i wants to acquire this knowledge from this relocated companion. What does he need to do? Get on the phone or the internet and start booking plane tickets? No. Train tickets? No. Get a taxi? No. Get online and see which camels are going that way and jump on one? No. They had to make their own arrangements. And if they were wealthy enough, they might have their own animal. They might have a camel, for example, a horse perhaps. Many of the companions did not. So what solution was left for them? To walk. Actually walk on their feet to this foreign country, to this neighboring region and locality, all to acquire this knowledge. And so this would sometimes be done by these individuals just to acquire one religious judgment. So they're not going there to take a course or a dawrah, or now that I'm here, I'll stay here for a week, for example. Bismillah. Or now that I'm here, let me finish this particular book or text or collection or the like. Sometimes they would go to check one judgment, to hear one judgment, sometimes to hear one hadith, sometimes to hear one hadith. They would travel hundreds of miles, and that requires what? Some wealth, time, we've said money, then to pack food, the effort that it takes. They might leave family behind if they had some. The physical, grueling journey itself, sometimes crossing through a desert perhaps, depending on where they were and where they were getting to, just to get there. Just to get there, not booked a hotel ahead. We'll get there at this particular time, we'll spend the night here, or we'll spend the night there in that hotel. And why are they doing that? All that effort, all that sacrifice to acquire the religious knowledge. This is a path that they were on. And remember, they weren't going just to stay there for a long time. So they might go to acquire the knowledge from a knowledgeable individual. And then after the time of the companions, this particular habit continued. And they would go to seek out scholars. And this scholar wouldn't always have all the fields of religious knowledge encompassed. Meaning that they would sometimes hear, these students of knowledge, there's a scholar over here teaching this field. There's a scholar over there teaching that field. There's a scholar over here who's a specialist in this field, like hadith, for example, and they'd go to that scholar to acquire that field of knowledge from them. And stay for a while, and then move on to another. Stay for a while, move on to another. And sometimes moving and traveling and relocating from one place to another, all to acquire and seek the religious knowledge. And we're not even necessarily talking about personal obligatory knowledge here, which of course you are obligated to do if you needed it. This is more than that. More than the bare minimum that they required. And they did that, many of them, to implement the meaning of this particular hadith. We'll see if this question gets answered in the lesson. If not, then ask me again at the end, inshallah. If we reflect then that the situation has changed nowadays, in what way life has been made easier, much more convenient than it was in the past. The roads that have been built, the modes of transport that there are available, the planes, the trains, the cars, the buses, etc., where a person is able to travel much quicker, get to further distances, not have to spend vast amounts of money that they might have had to do in the past. Because if they wanted to cross, 100 miles, that might be 3 or 4 days of travel. They need to pack for that, meals for that, where you can make that in a day now and even come back in the same day. So you're not spending money on spending the night somewhere, accommodation and food as much, etc. And so life has been made much more easy. However, with that convenience, what's happened? People have become a lot more lazy. That despite the convenience of travel, people have become, unfortunately, much more lazy. Where, look, the knowledge and the people of knowledge have now spread throughout the world. They're not only in Mecca and Medina or in the Arabian Peninsula as they were at the time of the companions. It's spread in Asia, in Europe, in America, in different areas now. There are people who have knowledge. People who are now much closer to you, available to you to acquire the religious knowledge. They might be teaching in a mosque, might be teaching in a center, might be teaching in a particular venue, someone's house perhaps. And all you have to do to get to that venue is jump in your car and drive. How much do you need to drive? 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30, 40, 50, whatever it might be. It's much less clearly than what was required in the past. And yet we have people nowadays saying 30 minutes is too far. 20 minutes is too far. What about driving here? Never mind, walking. That some people live within walking distances to sessions of religious knowledge and they do not attend them. I remember in Halifax, it's a small town, and you can probably get to most places in Halifax walking. Some places might take a bit longer than others, but the vast majority of people can, if they wanted to, get to where they want to by walking. Or at the least, most places within a 5-minute drive. Show you the extent of this town and its size. But I remember there were people who in the past, when a lesson would be given and someone would be absent, and I would ask, I'm talking about my personal experience, I didn't see you at the class today or yesterday or last week. And their excuse was, I couldn't get a lift. And we're talking about someone who might have lived within a 3-minute drive and maybe 10-minute walk to the place where the class was being given. I couldn't get a lift today. So-and-so took the car, or my car had an issue with it. And so because they were used to that convenience of getting there by car each time, the concept of, okay, I'll have to walk today then instead. Or maybe let me ask somebody else to give me a lift, perhaps. Just didn't occur to them. Don't have a car, I'm not going. I won't explicitly voice, let's say, some of the reactions that I felt inside hearing an excuse like that for why someone missed a session of religious knowledge that was so close to them. And so it's why are we in a situation like this? Some people say we're living in a different era now and times have changed, etc. Okay, we move forward a few centuries and what's changed? It's not any harder to attend sessions of knowledge. What's changed? Then people have changed. Their hearts have changed. Their priorities have changed. Their inclinations have changed. What they would rather become attached to and prioritize is different to what it was more so in the past. And the willingness of people to put effort to do some things is not the same for others. It's become, especially among some of the younger generation, well, it makes me sound old, but, and especially among the brothers more so, that they're willing to travel to go to a particular restaurant to eat. Which is fine. It's not haram, it's not, sinful, and they're going out and doing something permissible, they're eating together, no problem. And sometimes that journey might be an hour and a half. I've heard more than that in some regions. I won't even talk about America, where the localities are much more vast over there, which is fine. But then, as I said, you ask, you're going to attend the class, or there is a class in this area or that location that's not quite down the road from you. It might require a 20-minute, 30-minute, 45-minute drive. Too far. Can't make it. Got things to do. Bit busy tonight. With what? What takes more priority than this? And so people's determinations have dropped. Many people have allowed themselves to become sufficing with the bare minimum and convincing themselves they're doing a lot. So some people, when they donate, they might give a particular amount in the donation box, £10, £20. They might give 50. I'm like, wow, look how much I give. I bet nobody else gave 50 this week. And they think, I've done my bit. And it's like I don't need to donate now for a while. Or they'll attend a session of religious knowledge maybe once a week. And they'll say to themselves, that's me done. I've put my effort in for this week. I've done my bit. I acquired that knowledge. I attended that session. And what they mean by attending that session was they turned up. They found a spot in the back somewhere. They were leaning against the wall or maybe on a chair, and their legs are wide in front of them, one crossed over the other. Their phone is perhaps out, checking the scores of the sports that day, checking if anybody's messaged them, and if they have, to respond. And that was them in that session of knowledge. And they convinced themselves, I'm a student of knowledge. I attend a lesson once a week. Where are they from, the true students of knowledge of the past, where all their available time outside of what they needed to do was spent in seeking and acquiring religious knowledge? Traveling distances to attend, no matter how far that scholar was. Speaking of which, if it was announced that so-and-so celebrity was turning up an hour away, or so-and-so footballer was signing, t-shirts and giving them away an hour away, or 90 minutes away from where you are, how many people might turn up for that? And yet, for this knowledge, we're saying, the same amount of effort has not been put in. And yet the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever seeks a path of knowledge, Allah will make easy for him a path to where? Paradise. Paradise. Isn't that where we're all trying to get to? Isn't that where the ultimate destination of every believer is? Where every single Muslim in their heart, hopefully, is saying, that's where I want to get to. That's my end goal, my ultimate objective, to get to paradise. And if it is, then the Prophet ﷺ is saying, this is something that will get you there. This is something, not only will it get you there, it will make it easy for you to get there. Imagine that. Didn't the Prophet ﷺ say, Huffatil Jannatu bil Makarih? That the path to paradise is surrounded by hardships, filled with hardships. And yet the Prophet ﷺ is also saying, but here, if you do this, your path there will be made easier. Wouldn't a person take that up? Like if someone said, if you want to get to this particular destination, it's very difficult, a lot of obstacles in the way, but I know a shortcut for you. I know a path that you can take that will remove those hindrances and make your life easier to get there. Will you say, nah, I don't want to know. Don't tell me. I don't want to hear it. Why would I want to go on that path? Surely everyone would jump on there. And yet a person hears this about the Prophet ﷺ, and it's like they don't blink. That imagine if it was said that if anyone attends the lesson next week, they'll be put into a draw where they might win a chance to go to Dubai or Turkey, or they'll get to watch, Barcelona playing Real Madrid. Free tickets. You'll get a chance to win them if you attend the lesson next week. Don't you think you'd find people in that lesson that you've never even seen before? Just for what? A chance at getting that. And yet the Prophet ﷺ is saying to paradise, be on a path of knowledge, you'll get to paradise. What are we talking about? Paradise. What's going to be there? The Prophet ﷺ will be there. How many times do we make dua that, oh Allah, grant us a vision of the Prophet ﷺ in our dreams? Yet he will be with you while you are awake, physically, in paradise. But how are you going to get there? By sitting relaxed, back against the wall, hoping you're out of the eye line of the teacher, so he doesn't have to make eye contact with you, so you don't get caught out while you're on your phone. Is that the effort we're talking about? How are you going to get to paradise without any effort, without any work? Paradise requires work. The Prophet ﷺ said to the companions, who among you is willing to roll up their sleeves for paradise? Time to get down to business, time to put some effort in, to do some work. That's how you're going to get to paradise. Not by relaxing and chilling and wasting time after time and seeking ease and convenience after convenience. But it requires some further thought. Let's say if someone said, I want to earn £1 million, or I want to be a millionaire. Is that permissible for someone to have a goal like that? It's permissible. They want to do so in a permissible manner, with permissible wealth. Okay. How is he going to do that? Doesn't he need a plan? Some process? What I'm going to do first? Do I need to, take a degree in something, study? Do I need to learn business studies? Do I need to go into management? What job do I get first? Do I need to buy a place, set up a shop there, employees, workers, expansion? There's a process, isn't there? To finally get to that permissible goal of acquiring that wealth that will eventually all diminish. What's the plan to get you to paradise? Paradise which is worth much, much, much more than the most any person ever got in this life. The billionaires and the trillionaires, and even if you combined all their wealth together, he who has the least amount in paradise would have more than all that they have put together. And his wealth will never come to an end. What he has in paradise and the enjoyment he gets will never come to an end. Then Allah Ta'ala revealed, وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى. The hereafter is longer lasting, meaning forever without an end. And it is better than anything in this life. So why would a person then be caught up in this world and not work for their hereafter? Then, if you also reflect what's going on in the world nowadays, how many people are out there who are claimants of knowledge? Meaning, they say, we are knowledgeable, we are Sheikh so-and-so, they self-appointed muftis and the like. And yet they are deviants, calling to deviancy, spreading falsehood, spreading incorrect judgments. Who's going to stand up and face them? Who is going to refute them and expose them and save the Muslim Ummah from the likes of them? And how? Those who say, I'd love to, but busy with work. I need to make money for my family. You know how life is. These answers, what do they reflect? Weak iman in a person and a lack of sufficient reliance upon Allah Ta'ala. They think, I need to look after my family. If I don't work enough, I won't get enough money, and I've got my wife and I've got my kids, and I can't give that up, right? Who does sustenance come from? Allah Ta'ala. And isn't Allah the one who provides those who obey Him? What better act of obedience than defending His religion? And so if we look back to the wording of the Hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, he who travels a path seeking knowledge, Allah will make easy for him a path to paradise. This shows that there is not only one specific path to take for this. There's not one set route only to get a person to paradise. There are many routes, many ways. And this is out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He would facilitate many paths for the believer to get to paradise. But all of these paths do require knowledge. That is the main path, if you like, from which the other paths are taken and derived, is knowledge. Because no matter what you want to do, you require knowledge. And that starts with, of course, the personal, obligatory knowledge before anything else. And so also here, the Prophet ﷺ said, the one who travels a path seeking knowledge. He kept that general. So this does not mean that one has to become a scholar or a hafiz of the Quran to be included in this meaning. And it doesn't necessarily mean that he's traveling vast distances necessarily to acquire the knowledge to come and be included in the hadith and its meaning. So even if a person was at home, for argument's sake, and they were able to acquire and access a lesson from this teacher, a lesson from that teacher, and they are putting the effort into, let's say, reviewing and following up the understanding of the religious judgments, then this is a path of paradise they've taken. That this hadith refers to, yes, a physical path in terms of a person physically getting out there and going to the mosque and traveling to this area and walking for miles over there and traveling to this scholar session and that scholar session, and physically going out there to acquire the knowledge. But it can also mean that a person, where they are, they acquire the knowledge as well. Yet if they have a scholar available to them or a person of knowledge available to them where they are, it doesn't mean they have to leave them and then go to someone else to learn from somebody who's further away. No. But they are spending their time acquiring the religious knowledge. It means then that someone is on the path. Look how easy the religion made this matter, that you don't even have to be a specialist in every field of religious knowledge or acquire all the knowledge or be like a Shafi'i and Abu Hanifa, may Allah raise their ranks. A portion of the knowledge. If you acquire it, apply it, and then seek to apply more and apply it, and then seek to acquire more and implement it, you're on the path of knowledge. And for that, Allah would facilitate for you a path to paradise. This hadith then is actually part of a longer hadith. The first part of it, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Innal ulama'a warathatul anbiya, warithul ilm, man akhadahu akhadha bihadhin wafir, wa man salaka tariqan يطلب به علما سهل الله له طريقا إلى الجنة." So the hadith that we've taken is actually the second part of what the Prophet ﷺ said beforehand, which was, the scholars are the inheritors of the prophets. And what did they inherit? Because the prophets did not leave behind wealth, gold and silver, for people to inherit. So what did they inherit? The Prophet ﷺ said, "Warithul ilm." They inherited the knowledge. Inherited knowledge. What does that mean? That it got passed on? A book was given? Something physical was handed over? No. It means that this knowledge that the prophets taught to their followers, the people thereafter came and acquired that knowledge, learned it, heard it, mouth to ear. They heard the people of knowledge speaking and memorized and studied it like that. And so the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever takes from it, meaning what? From that inheritance, which is what? Knowledge, then they have taken something great, something magnificent. Then he said, the one who travels a path seeking knowledge, Allah will make easy for him a path to paradise. What did the Prophet ﷺ say? Will make easy. Since the Prophet ﷺ said this, whose words are these? The words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It means then that this notion of Allah making this path easy for you is not hypothetical and maybe it will be easy and hopefully it will be easy. No, it's guaranteed. These are the words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sahhal Allahu lahu. Allah will make it easy for him, sahal, to get to paradise. Guaranteed then. This is because the one who conveys the revelation without mistakes is saying this. But as long as one is being sincere. And so it should be the case that a believer hears hadiths like this and others, and it's not just in one ear and out the other. The case of the believer should be that they hear the words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and something in them changes. It's like, that's what he said. That's what I need to do. Let me change myself for the better. Let me act on what I heard. Rather than they sit in the session, okay, that's nice. MashaAllah, the Prophet said that, Allahu Akbar. Then they leave the session and life goes on as normal. Nothing changes. Nothing improves. It's as if you never heard. And who's telling you this? The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is telling you, you need to do this to get to paradise. And if you don't, then you might not get there. This is why the scholars would say statements like the lines of poetry, ترجو النجاة ولم تسلك مسالكها إن السفينة لا تجري على اليبس. This means that you're hoping for salvation in the hereafter, but you're not treading the path to get it. You're not doing what you need to get it. And then an analogy is given in that line of poetry, which is that the ship does not sail on dry land. What does that mean? That you might build a ship and prepare it, and the wood is ready and the oars are ready, etc. But it's on dry land, far away from water of the ocean. If that's the case, is it going to go anywhere? Is it going to head in any direction? Is it going to take you to where you want to get to? No. Stuck where it is. So you, O individual, who wants to get to paradise, but you're not on the path to it, how are you going to get there? You're going to stay where you are. Stuck. Why? Because you've not done anything to push you, to make you get to your destination. It's like you're a ship on dry land. You're never going to go anywhere. So one cannot kid themselves, delude themselves into thinking, I'll get there. I'm a Muslim. I believe in Allah. I'll get to paradise. What makes you so sure? How many Muslims have left Islam before they've died? How many Muslims, while dying as Muslims, will end up in hellfire first? Will you be among them? We don't know. Will you be among the saved ones? We don't know. What you can't do though is say, Oh Allah, grant me goodness. Oh Allah, make things easy for me. Oh Allah, grant me paradise. And you don't do anything. You don't act yourself. You don't work yourself to get yourself to paradise. How does that work? Such a person, the Prophet ﷺ called him Al-Ajiz. He said about him, يَتَمَنَّى عَلَى اللَّهِ الْأَمَانِي. He hopes to get things from Allah Ta'ala, but without doing any work. the Prophet ﷺ talked about this individual in the opposite context of he who he defined as being dhaki, intelligent. So if you're not intelligent, what are you? You can fill in the blanks. And so the Prophet ﷺ encourages the Muslims to be on the path of knowledge, seeking it, and of course passing it on to others, because you never know as well that you hear something beneficial in a lesson and you go back and tell others. It's not really had much of an impact on you, but you never know. If you tell that to someone else, it might impact them more than it impacts you. And that's been seen. And the Prophet ﷺ talked about this as well, that you might sometimes carry the knowledge and pass it on and convey it to someone who is more knowledgeable than you, has a better understanding than you, might be impacted by it more than you. But at least you've conveyed it. You've done something good. You've got the reward for that as well. So don't be, for want of a better word, stingy. Then you heard something good and beneficial, but then you keep it to yourself. You don't tell anyone else about it. Don't be among such individuals. Hadith number 11 then. عن معاوية أنه قال سمعت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول من يرد الله به خيرا يفقهه في الدين وإنما أنا قاسم والله يعطي ولن تزال هذه الأمة قائمة على أمر الله لا يضرهم من خالفهم حتى يأتي أمر الله. Hadith number 11. It says from Muawiyah, who narrated that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the one whom Allah willed goodness for, He grants him understanding in the religion. This is the meaning of the term that's used in the hadith, yufaqihu. Allah grants them fiqh. What does that mean? Understanding. And so it does not just mean that a person heard or even memorized a religious matter. It means they understood it. So whoever has the proper understanding of religious matters, it is a sign that Allah willed goodness for them. It's a good sign, a positive sign, a sign of good news for them, that they're on a good path, a good state, because Allah has willed khair for them. The Prophet ﷺ said, I am just a distributor. It's someone who gives something out. What's he referring to? He's referring to the revelation that came to him. I distributed, meaning whatever was revealed to me, I convey it to the people. Which people? Not just to specific ones, or this person over that one, or just the Arabs, or just his family, to everyone. The Prophet ﷺ shared the revelation and taught the knowledge to everyone, without any restriction, without any specification. He didn't say, you guys can't attend, or can the women leave now, or this is a men's only class. The Prophet ﷺ taught everyone. He conveyed the revelation to everyone, but the level of their understanding differed. This person might hear something from the Prophet ﷺ and understand this much, and another hears him and understands more than that. This is why he said, Allah is the one who gives. Meaning, Allah is the one who gives understanding to whomever He willed. So you might grant a bit of understanding to this person, that one might understand a bit more, this one understands even more, and the like. And this is because Allah distributes the understanding among the people just as He distributes rizq, sustenance. So just as the sustenance that reaches a person, that's what Allah Ta'ala eternally will for them to get. They were never going to get any more or any less. And the understanding that a person has of religious matters, this is what Allah Ta'ala will for them to have. Allah Ta'ala does whatever He willed, and He is attributed with eternal and everlasting wisdom. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, this nation will not cease being upon the order of Allah. This nation, what does that mean? The majority of this ummah. Because the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, in the context of this hadith, talked about how his ummah will not unite upon misguidance, and that the majority of the Muslims would go to paradise, those who ascribe themselves to Al-Islam. And so what's meant by here being upon the order of Allah, being upon the religion of Allah? Islam. So it means that the majority of this ummah will stay on the truth and on the true religion. This is what the Prophet ﷺ told us. And those who oppose them will not harm them until the order of Allah comes. Meaning that Islam will stay among the people. Muslims will remain on the face of the earth, no matter who opposes them. No matter how hard others try to rid Islam of the earth, to rid the Muslims of the earth, whether physically, whether through killing, as we see with the plight of the Palestinians. May Allah Ta'ala ease their situation or protect them. But no matter how many of them were to get killed, even Palestine won't get destroyed, never mind Islam. Or if attempts are made to misguide all the Muslims, it won't happen. Or to find some way of getting rid of the Muslims of the earth, spiritually or otherwise, it's not going to happen until the order of Allah comes. What does that refer to? We said that the situation of the Muslims will be that they remain on the earth, remain among the people. Islam remains, but to a point, until the order of Allah comes. The order of Allah, what? For a particular breeze to come to the earth. And this it's a soft, gentle breeze that will pass by under the arms of the believers and result in their souls exiting their bodies. When that happens, no Muslim will remain alive. That's it now. And only the worst of the people ever will remain on the earth. And they will stay like that for 100 years until the Day of Judgment. So this is actually one of the major signs of the Day of Judgment. And further on, that is after the time of Isa alayhi salam and the Dajjal and Mahdi, etc. After that, by a while, Muslims would remain, and then the order of Allah would come, and that's it. No Muslim would remain left on the earth, and that will be the worst of times on the earth. Until the horn is finally blown by Israfil alayhi salam, and those that would be left on the earth would only be the kuffar. Subhanallah. And so within this hadith, didn't the Prophet ﷺ say, the one whom Allah will goodness for, He grants him understanding in the religion. So within that, there is encouragement from the Prophet ﷺ to learn and teach the religious knowledge. For that is how one grants or one gains understanding in the religion. That perhaps some of you have experienced it and perhaps some not. But there is a real, tangible experience of the understanding of some religious matters increasing and improving once you teach them. Truly, I've felt that myself. That sometimes you study and you learn and you read and you repeat and you think you've understood something to a particular extent. And it's only when you teach it, it's like something clicks. That makes more sense now. That's even clearer than what I thought before. I remember there was one particular religious issue that I studied it at least 3 different times, at least, in different books, the same judgment. And I memorized it, and I repeated it, and I probably wrote it down in an exam. And it's only when I taught it that I could say, I understand that now. It just clicked. It made sense in a way that it never did before. Like I thought I understood it before. I thought I understood it before. And then once teaching it, it finally made more sense. And so it should be then that a person puts the effort in to acquire the knowledge, but the way to do that, as we mentioned before, is from the people of knowledge, verbally, and not just merely by reading books or flicking through internet articles or YouTube shorts or TikTok shorts or whatever it might be, and grabbing snippets here and there. That's not how the religious knowledge is acquired. And not every person who claims to be knowledgeable is the one to acquire the knowledge from. This requires some diligence, looking into who this person is what they are saying aligning with what came in the Quran and Hadith and the ijma' of the scholars of the past or not. And only by acquiring this knowledge would a person be among those that Allah will goodness for and be among the winners in the hereafter and on the day of judgment. May Allah Ta'ala make us among them. For clarity then, I think I perhaps said a statement that wasn't perhaps clear, that all of the Muslims, of course, will go to paradise, but what I was saying or attempted to say is that the majority of those who say about themselves that they are Muslims are on the correct path and on the correct belief and are actually Muslims. As for the actual Muslims, yeah, of course, all of them will eventually go to paradise, even if a portion of them would go to hellfire beforehand to be punished as a result of their prior sins. So if I misspoke or that wasn't clear what I was saying before, then just take note of that. Barakallahu feekum, and for whoever reminded me of that. Tayyib, inshallah, we'll end there, and Allah Ta'ala knows best. La ilaha illallah